So our platform, we really want to focus on increasing affordability for students, increasing the transparency of the executive slate, which has been a big problem lately, dramatically improving RSO support, as far as the executive slate is concerned, which hasn't concerned itself much with that recently. And we want to be a very open community building organization that responds very actively to student concerns. Well, I feel like we are reflecting the student body's convictions in the sense that we really believe that they want to have access to SG's resources, which haven't been the most efficiently used towards, the improvements of student life.
One of our platform ideas was RSO support in terms of more lenient funding for new RSOs, because SGFC guidelines as is don't allow fundraisers to be funded by SGFC, and so what that does is it sort of stifles a lot of new RSOs from growing, because in order to have a fundraiser they have to pay out of pocket, and that's a big enough deterrent that it just doesn't happen sometimes.
Right.
And so there would probably need to be additional funds to SGFC to allow that sort of incubation period that we want to happen.
And unfortunately, we've had to uphold this kind of silly no funding fundraisers rule, which I can see for large organizations or if the money's going to go elsewhere, but for a small RSO that's just founding, whose money will just go back to that RSO, I see no reason why that shouldn't be allowed. Well, I can't help but think about the executive budget. The $40,000 plus $85,000 the executive slate currently has when you include its rollover funds is unacceptably large. And so the student body doesn't know this number, normally speaking, unless you're involved in SG, and I think it's ridiculous that you don't immediately know how your student government is spending your fee money.
Student leaders are working very hard on initiatives like the stipend issue, and so there's no reason that when it's announced it should blindside people and garner all this resistance all of a sudden. We believe that a better way for that to be handled would be sort of weekly updates. This is what we're doing, this is what we're thinking about, so that if there are concerns, they can appear, months before the proposal is announced in the first place. Mm-hmm. And so that when you make a proposal, it's right the first time around. And so that's sort of what we had in mind with the transparency.
Yeah. Often College Council is left out of the decision making by the executive cabinet. So even though you have a correspondent sitting in CC, they don't know we don't know what's going on either, because there hasn't been executive cabinet explaining what they're planning. And we think there should be a much more transparent and much more close relationship between CC and executive cabinet, just because CC has that sort of oversight, I guess, almost.
We've learned a lot about different ways to engage with students, what works and what doesn't. First year, for instance, we hosted phenomenal study breaks with arts groups that people hung around for a long time and legitimately talked to us about SG stuff. Other times, we had cookie study breaks where people come in, take it, and leave. Again, we had town halls, and those work very well. So serving for this long has really been a good test of how to engage. That's been very helpful. So it's been a very serving on Less Reduced has been a very instructive experience in how to reach out to people, how to figure out what people really want to see done on this campus, and how to get people really involved.